Join me as I dive deep into the reasons why we can't help but compare ourselves online, and see if I can break free from this cycle for a whole week. Social comparison theory is a concept that has been around for decades, but its relevance in the digital age cannot be overstated. With social media platforms being an integral part of our daily lives, it's almost impossible not to compare ourselves to others, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. But have you ever stopped to think about why we do this and what the consequences are? We've all been there. Scrolling through our feeds, seeing our friends and followers' highlight reels, and wondering why our lives aren't as exciting or successful. Social comparison on social media is a pervasive issue that affects not only our self-esteem, but also our mental health. We start to feel inadequate, like we're not doing enough, or that we're just not good enough. And before we know it, we're stuck in a vicious cycle of comparison, never feeling like we measure up. But what's even more alarming is that we're comparing our behind-the-scenes moments to everyone else's edited, curated, and often fake online personas. It's like comparing apples and oranges, and yet, we still fall for it. We forget that social media is just a snapshot of someone's life, and that nobody posts about their struggles, failures, or mundane daily routines. And yet, we use these snapshots as a benchmark to measure our own worth. The constant stream of information on social media platforms is designed to keep us engaged, and one of the ways it does this is by capitalizing on our innate desire for social comparison. It's a powerful tool that can manipulate our emotions, making us feel like we need to keep up with the Joneses, or in this case, the Instagram influencers. The psychological mechanisms behind social comparison are fascinating, yet detrimental to our well-being. When we make upward comparisons, we tend to feel inferior, inadequate, or dissatisfied. On the other hand, downward comparisons can make us feel superior, but only temporarily, and often at the expense of others. And with social media, we're constantly surrounded by opportunities to make both upward and downward comparisons, often without even realizing it. Upward comparisons can manifest online in the form of FOMO, where we feel like we're missing out on experiences or opportunities. We see others' exotic vacations, their luxurious lifestyles, or their seemingly perfect relationships, and we start to feel like we're not doing enough. We start to believe that we need to be more, accomplish more, or acquire more in order to be happy. And before we know it, we're stuck in a never-ending cycle of one-upmanship. Downward comparisons, on the other hand, can make us feel better about ourselves, but only temporarily. We might look at someone who's struggling and think, well, at least I'm not that bad. But this kind of thinking is not only toxic, but also unsustainable. It creates a culture of competition, where we're more focused on being better than others, rather than being better than ourselves. The consequences of constant comparison are far-reaching and devastating. We start to feel anxious, dissatisfied, and unhappy. Even when we have everything we need to be content, we become trapped in a toxic cycle of comparison, where we're never good enough, no matter how hard we try. And social media platforms are the perfect breeding ground for this kind of thinking. But it's not all doom and gloom. By being aware of our tendencies to compare ourselves online, we can start to break free from this cycle. We can start to focus on our own journeys, our own goals, and our own successes. We can start to celebrate our uniqueness rather than trying to fit in or keep up with the crowd. And that's exactly what I'll be doing for the next week, taking a break from social media and focusing on my own growth, rather than comparing myself to others. In today's digital age, it's more important than ever to be aware of the impact of social comparison on our mental health. By recognizing the triggers and the consequences, we can start to take control of our own lives and our own happiness. Thanks for watching, and if you have any experiences with social comparison that you'd like to share, please do so in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more about mental health, be sure to check out my next video on the topic.